Yo, welcome back to the Mental Shift Podcast, where our goal is to share inspirational stories from the streets to the boardroom. Simply here to inspire you to keep going through what you're going through, because on the other side of that is success. 2 days ago, I'm in my bedroom, and it dawned on me, right? I made a comment on the first episode of the first podcast here, right? Where I said something to the effect of, if you're lucky enough, you won't even realize you've been through something until after you've gone through it. So I realized I went through almost 15 years of trials and tribulations, right? And that reminded me of the story of Job and how God allowed the devil to test Job's faith and try Job. And it just kind of, it hit me, man. It hit my whole body. I'm like, I felt God was prompting me to, one, read to you the book of Job. So if you've never heard the story, you're going to hear it today, coming to you from the New International Version, Holy Bible, book of Job 1 and 2. So I'm going to share that story with you, and then I'm going to share as quickly as possible a timeline of events starting from like 1995 and going till about 2015, 2016. Okay, buckle up. Let's go. Job 1. In the land of Uz, there lived a man whose name was Job. This man was blameless and upright. He feared God and shunned evil. He had 7 sons, 3 daughters, and he owned 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camel, 500 yoke of oxen, and 500 donkeys, and had a large number of servants. He was the greatest man among all the people of the East. Safe to say, Job was a wealthy man. His sons used to take turns holding feasts in their homes, and they would invite their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. When a period of feasting had run its course, Job would send and have them purified. Early in the morning, he would sacrifice a burnt offering for each of them, thinking, perhaps my children have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. This was Job's regular custom. Job's first test. One day, the angel came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came with them. The Lord said to Satan, "Where have you come from?" Satan answered the Lord, "From roaming through the earth and going back and forth in it." Then the Lord said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil." Does Job fear God for nothing? Satan replied, "Have you put a hedge around him and his household and everything he has? You have blessed the work of his hand, so that his flocks and herds are spread throughout the land. But stretch out your hand and strike everything he has, and he will surely curse you to your face." The Lord said to Satan, "Very well then, everything he has is in your hand. But on the man himself, do not lay a finger." Then Satan went out from the presence of the Lord. One day, when Job's son and daughters were feasting and drinking wine at the oldest brother's house, a messenger came to Job and said, "The oxen were plowing and the donkeys were grazing nearby, and the Sabeans attacked and carried them off. They put the servants to the sword, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, another messenger came and said, "The fire of God fell from the sky and burned up the sheep and the servants, and I am the only one who escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, another messenger came and said, "The Chaldeans formed 3 raiding parties and swept down on your camels and carried them off. They put the servants to the sword, and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, yet another messenger came and said, "Your son and your daughters were feasting and drinking wine at the oldest brother's house, when suddenly a mighty wind swept in from the desert and struck the 4 corners of the house. It collapsed on them, and they are all dead. and I am the only one who has escaped to tell you." At this, Job got up and tore his robe and shaved his head, then fell to the ground in worship and said, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised." And all this, Job did not sin by charging God with wrongdoing. Let's pause for a second. By no means am I a righteous man without evil. I'm not saying that. What I am saying, though, is through every trial and tribulation that I faced from my early, and rightfully so, most of them were of my own doing, right? I never lost my faith. I never questioned God why. Book 2, Job's second test. On another day, the angels came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came with them to present himself before him. And the Lord said to Satan, "Where have you come from?" Satan answered the Lord, "From roaming through the earth and going back and forth in it." Then the Lord said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him. He is blameless and upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil, and he still maintains his integrity. Though you incited me against him to ruin him without any reason, skin for skin," Satan replied. "A man will give all he has for his own life, but stretch out your hand and strike his flesh and bones, and he will surely curse you to your face." The Lord said to Satan, "Very well then, he is in your hands, but you must spare his life." So Satan went out from the presence of the Lord and afflicted Job with painful sores from the soles of his feet to the top of his head. Then Job took a piece of broken pottery and scraped himself with it as he sat amongst the ashes. His wife said to him, "Are you still holding on to your integrity? Curse God and die." He replied, "You are talking like a foolish woman. Shall we accept good from God and not trouble?" In all this, Job did not sin. And what he said, Job's three friends, when Job's three friends, Eliphaz, the Termite, the Temanite, Bildad, the Shuhite, and Zophar, the Namathite, heard about all the troubles that had come upon him, they set out from their homes and met together by agreement to go and sympathize with him and comfort him. When they saw him from a distance, they could hardly recognize him. They began to weep aloud, and they tore their robes and sprinkled dust on their heads. Then they sat on the ground with him for 7 days and 7 nights. No one said a word to him because they saw how great his suffering was. I'm going to stop right there. I don't even compare to Job. I really don't. I don't even think I'm worthy to share his story. So I graduated high school in 95, started smoking weed. Got to school at Carroll University, used to be Carroll College. Simultaneously, I was in the military, probably a year in. My unit, I got transferred from Milwaukee out here because I was going to school that would make it easier. Weed made me feel like I was the life of the party, right? It became a solution for my awkward socialness and whatnot, if you will. Before you know it, I'm running around campus and everything like I'm just the big man on campus. So I discovered weed and how much fun it was, how relaxing it was, you know? And then I discovered how easy it was to be with a female. You know, we were all college students, young and dumb, excuse me. Then I found out that, you know, women found me attractive. Like I hadn't really felt that in high school and whatnot. So it became real easy, right? Coming out of AIT, I'm in shape, I'm ripped, got abs, still no hair, very little hair. I was shaving it bald by the time I was 19. Fast forward, 1998, spring of 98, I got kicked out of college because I wasn't going to school. I was just running and ripping. Fall of 97, I got put out of the military for smoking weed. Fast forward to like 99, met a young lady and everything. Me and my current wife were on a break. Met a young lady, got her pregnant, had my first kid in the year 2000. And when my current wife, Mickey, when she found out that, I was having a kid, she looked at me and she goes, tears in her eyes, like she was crying and bawling hard. And she was like, I always thought I'd be the first one to give you your first child, your first son specifically is what she said. Like she knew I was having a son. I didn't even know I was having a son yet. And we hugged and we embraced and we've been together ever since. Um, Fast forward again, my son's born early 2000. She purchases a house. We move out of the apartment. She purchases her first home. I stopped selling cars, went to school for barbering. You guys know that story. It's in the last episode. Um, Through all of those trials, tribulations, and stress, a buddy of mine presented an opportunity to make some quick cash. It was a check fraud. And so this is my first time getting in any serious trouble with the law. So I said, yeah, I'll put my name on the check. So I put my name on the check. We bust the check down. It's like for $5,500. And I was supposed to keep $1,000. He was supposed to keep $1,000. And we were supposed to give, $3,500 or whatever to the guy who, put the thing together, put the check together. Me and my guy got smart and we were like, okay, I'm going to keep two, you going to keep two, and we're going to give him $1,500. And so that's what we did. Fast forward, shortly after my son was born in July, I'd say about fall maybe, early fall, September-ish. The Waukesha PD come knocking at my door. And they're like, yeah, we're looking for Timothy Reddick. And I'm like, yeah, I'm him. We need you to come down to the station with us. And I don't panic, but I'm in a panic, right? Call my manager and I'm like, hey, bro, this was going on. He's like, don't sweat it. What you tell him? So I said, I ain't really say nothing. He's like, all right, come get me. So I went to Milwaukee, picked up my mans. We got our story together, came out here. And again, how God works, because the crime was committed in Milwaukee, as soon as Waukesha figured that out, they let it go. It was Milwaukee's problem. That was the first thing God did for me. Second thing he did for me, I was supposed to get like Hubert time, right? Jail, but like you still get to go to work. And so I went to go check in. They gave me like a couple days after my last court hearing and stuff. It's like, hey, Monday, let's say the court date was Friday. They gave me my sentence. It's like, Monday, you need to report, turn yourself in. So I went down to where I was supposed to turn myself in. And I got there. They're like, hey, look, we ain't got no beds for you. So we're going to put you on an ankle bracelet and you're on house arrest. That was the second thing God did for me. So now I'm on probation. I'm on house arrest. The third thing God did for me during the house arrest, was he gave me a probationary officer that was pregnant. I was supposed to be on mandatory drug tests. And even though I wasn't a drug related, they put that in there. She never tested me. I never stopped smoking weed. I was stubborn. I was like, y'all not going to tell me how to live my life. So she left. I ended up with another guy. And when he sat down, he's like, hey, look, looks like you paid up with your restitution and everything already. It's going to be easy. I'm getting ready to retire relatively shortly. You don't give me no hard times, I won't give you no hard times. I'm like, bet. So fast forward, I'm 2 years worth of probation now, guys. Now I'm at the end of probation and everything, pushing 2003. And that's when I decided that I'm going to go to school for barber cosmetology and whatnot. And the last 2 weeks of probation. And this new guy comes, and he hell-bent on doing everything the right way. And he looks and he goes, all right, looks like da-da-da-da. All right, next time I see you, I'm going to piss test you. I panicked for real. I'm like, oh, shit. I've been smoking for 2 years. I done got lucky. And I looked at him and I said, hey, I'm done in 2 weeks. Like, he goes, oh, yeah, you're right. You are done in 2 weeks. Goes, restitution's paid. He's like, all right, great. I don't need to see you and have a good life. Fast forward. I go to school and everything. I finished the school 2003, 2005. Fast forward 2008, I get fired from Cost Cutters. 2 weeks later, I opened up my barbershop. And I touched on this in the first episode. I'll be quick about it. 2007, love music and all that. October 2007, somebody I used to connect with, he was my weed plug here in Waukesha. got caught up with a blunt roach and a pistol in the car. The cops got him to turn, flip CI. Told you that story, so I won't stay on it too long. Fast forward through the court case and everything. And this was like, mind you, right? A year and a half. Barbershop opened 2008. So we're talking fall of 2009. Yeah, about fall of 2009, I'm going to court for the last time. And the DA is offering one thing. My attorney's offering another thing. And how God works again, like, right? Like, I don't know why, but he saw fit to let me free. No Huber time, no jail time, no probation. The judge looked at me and said, Tim, go live your life. If you ever step foot in my court case, in my courthouse again, I will, I'll read everything you've ever done and we'll consider that in sentencing you. We got to backtrack a little bit because I forgot a very, very important part. 6, have my first son with my wife. Now let's get to 2009. My daughter is born. Now let's jump ahead, 2010, 2011. October 2010, I leave the barbershop where I was at downtown, moved to where I was, got news right through it all, the court cases and all that stuff. I guess they were thinking about raiding, and I mentioned that in a previous episode as well, so I won't stay on it too long. But how God works, right? Everything in my bone was like, everything in my person was telling me to move. It was, energy was done. It was time to move on. Previously, they had removed 3 different people out of my barber shop that were criminals in the city of Waukesha. But I knew one of them from when he was a kid. And all I'm thinking about, like, I know this dude, he good people and whatnot. I'm not thinking about what he's doing to earn his money or how that reflects on me. He was like local D-boy out here in Waukesha. They arrested him. They arrested 2 other people. And they could have waited for them to come out of the barbershop down the street. But no, they intentionally pulled them out of the shop to make it seem like I was running a business that was a nuisance to the community. They didn't want me downtown anymore. It wasn't because I was black, right? But it was because of the company that was being kept and the traffic, the foot traffic and everything. They didn't want that in their downtown area. So fast forward again, October 10th, I move. I found out 2 weeks after I moved that they were about to raid the shop. That was God's word. If I'd have stayed a month later, if I wouldn't have moved when I moved, they would have raided and who knows where I would be at now. Oh, all that being said, shortly after I moved, now me and my wife, we're going through some things because I'm running, I'm ripping and all that. And again, how God works, right? She comes home from a weekend in Madison. I want to say this was 2011. September, October. She comes home from a weekend in Madison, just convention, and she slams her wedding band down on the table. What the are we doing this for? Everything that's wrong in my life is your fault. That's the short version. I want a divorce. You gotta go. So pack up for the night. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm out the house, right? And of course, I do what I do. I roll a blunt, take it to the head, I drive out to Milwaukee. I'm hanging out with my people and stuff, and they literally had to play my own music for me because I was so distraught that I actually thought of taking my own life. Like that love is that real. Um, come back out. Oh, you got to know this part. Someone I hadn't talked to in years rings my phone. She's like, "What's up, Tim?" I'm like, "What's going on? I ain't talked to you in forever." She's like, "Yeah, I just want to check on you. Da, 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 how you doing?" And I tell her what's going on. She's like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry to hear that." She's like, what are you gonna do for the night? You know, you can come stay here if you want to. And I said, "Nah, I'm not gonna do that because if I do, I'm gonna want to feel better. And I know for a fact you'll help me feel better." So didn't go there. Instead, I came back to Waukesha, slept on my friend Hector's couch. And between waking up crying, sobbing, just ugly crying, snot and everything, I fall asleep, wake up, fall asleep, wake up, have a dream. And in this dream, my daughter, who's 18 months old at the time, was crying. So I go in her room, and this is the most lucid dream I ever had in my life. I go in her room, I pick her up, hold her little bottom here, pet her back here, and I say, "Don't worry, baby, everything's gonna be okay." And I lay her back down in the crib. And that's that. I wake up in the morning because I still got obligations to my family, to the kids at least, right? And so wife comes downstairs and she looks me in my eyes and she's bawling and she said, did you come home last night? And I'm like, no, I didn't come home last night. She's like, are you sure? I said, I'm positive. But mind you, we had little monitors, right? A and B, little walkie-talkie things, so we could hear our kids, because her bedroom was on the first floor and our bedroom was upstairs. She said Natalie was crying last night at 1 a.m. in the morning, and I looked at the clock and I heard your voice, so I didn't go check on her. You can't tell me God isn't real and he isn't good. Because in the midst of me losing it all, he saved my marriage. We've been together ever since, and I've been changing ever since. I've been working on being better ever since. I've been working on being worthy of his grace and his mercy. I am a living testimony to the goodness of God. So now you fast forward again, 2013. I come home from a stressful day at the barbershop, and I used to smoke Newports, the Hunters, menthols. And I'm in the garage after me and the wife just got into a heated argument. And I'm dragging on this cigarette, and I swear, if it was that long, in less than a minute, I had smoked it down to here. And that silent internal voice hit me like, do you really believe God can deliver you from cigarettes the way he did your ma, your sister, your other sister, your cousin, your uncle, your auntie, your brother? And I'm like, yeah, right? Internal dialogue with myself. So like, literally, I dropped that cigarette, put it out. I go to the car. I had just bought a fresh pack. Maybe 3 was gone out of a 20 pack, so 17 left. I got them like this in my hands, and I'm standing over the garbage can in the garage, and I'm saying the Lord's Prayer internally. And as I'm getting ready, and I ask him, I'm like, hey, remove everything from me associated with cigarettes. And I got the cigarettes like this, and as I think, amen, and I'm about to speak, amen, the cigarettes in that split moment, in that split second, it broke. I had every intention on breaking them and throwing them away, but they broke. Something else broke them. And I'm grateful for that. Fast forward 2015, I believe it was. No, 2013, later on that same year. I say that same prayer again to get delivered from smoking weed. The burning desire was to not smoke weed anymore because it had become the problem, right? Thank you. I just thought of something that I forgot. Again, how God works. Somewhere between 2009 and 2013, a buddy of mine was having a hotel party, and they was going to have a bunch of girls and a bunch of drugs. And now, mind you, I'm married. I shouldn't be there, but I went. I don't want to miss out. So I get there late, 11 o'clock, 11:30, and he like, bro, you got to catch up. And he give me an X. And I popped, this is my first time popping a whole pill. I had done it before, but I've always been cautious, like I'm just going to take a half a pill. Because, I'm sensitive to all that stuff, so it affects me more. Take the whole pill. 30 minutes, she's like, nah, bro, you got to take another one. You got to catch up. He give me another one. And then he finally tried to feed me another one. I'm like, nah, I'm just going to wait right here. So I went outside, and it was a clear night. And man, I tell you, by the time that shit hit me, the stars were dancing in the skies. Like I'm on the hood of the car looking up, and the stars are doing this. They just dancing. I'm like, whoa, I'm tripping balls. So then I get up, and my thoughts are starting to spin out of control. I'm starting to panic. I'm starting to go hard left. And I walk back in the hotel room, and I see my friend, and he's curled up in the fetal position against the wall, just rocking back and forth, back and forth. And like that internal dialogue was like, pray for him. Now I'm going through it myself. I'm literally on the brink of losing my fucking brain. And I go pray for him. And I remember this again like it was yesterday. I take my hands and I grab his whole head with his ears sitting in between my thumb, and I press on his temples, and I grab the rest of the back of his head, and I say the Lord's Prayer, and I ask him to keep him. I'm not thinking about me, but how God works is because I listened and I obeyed and I prayed for him, God also spared me. There's been times, right, through it all, after effects of that night, I would lay down and whatnot, and there was so much going on in life, right, that I would call myself taking a nap in the middle of the day. and I would hear the TV on, but there wasn't a TV on. And before you judge me and claim schizophrenia and all that, my mom, growing up, suffered from schizophrenia. It plagues my family, and it's hard for me to talk about because it was something that I was so scared of getting, right? It was a trigger for me. But again, how God works is in those moments, right? Of self-doubt and of fear of hearing things that weren't really there. You know, somehow I get pointed to Sylvia Brown, a psychic that used to be on the Montel Jordan show. And I started digging into her works and stuff. And I saw an episode on there where this lady was talking about the same thing I was going through. Like I'm just randomly, I turned on the TV and Montel, not Jordan, that's the singer, but Montel, the talk show host, Sylvia Brown was on there, and this lady was talking about how she lay down and she could hear the TV and everything. And Sylvia she goes, well, what can I do? What is it? Who is it? Why? And Sylvia goes, it's you. You're the reason. You're creating this sound. And in that moment, I accepted that truth, like, oh wow. And it stopped. Never had that problem again. Other moments, right? Back when I was going through the court case, back when I was dealing with the law, taking snap pics and all of that stress compiled on top of me, I started suffering from psychosis, simultaneously started experiencing deja vu daily, to the point where I got so arrogant about the deja vu. Like I had an incident happen where a guy sat in the barber chair, and I swear it was my third time experiencing this episode, that time loop, so to speak, right? I know that now, but either way, stay with me. He sits down in the chair, I get halfway through the cut, and I say, hey, bro, I'm finna tell you what's finna happen. This is your third time being here, and this is your third time doing this. At the end of this cut, you're going to ask me and tell me that, oh, I forgot my money at home, da-da-da-da, I'll bring it back, woo-woo-woo, but you're never going to come back with the money. I was like, I don't mind looking out, but at least give me an opportunity to make that choice myself. You don't get the right to do it for me, right? And he looked at me and goes, damn, bro, how you know? I said, because I've been suffering from deja vu. And I got a ton of stories like that. And then finally I got to the point where, again, I listened to that eternal dialogue, and I did a Google search, and I found out I wasn't the only one that suffered from it. And once I realized that somebody else had suffered from it, I could accept the fact that I wasn't losing my mind, I wasn't going crazy, that this was just a moment in time, and it too shall pass. I'm so happy, thank you, God, that I said that, because what I noticed was this pattern that I would hear those words, this too shall pass, before the next wave of whatever it was I was about to go through happened. 2016, the story about the heart attack. I think that was the final thing. That was the final trial. Now, in a short amount of time, as promised, I've just covered from 1995 to 2015, 2016, and told you in very short order, because you will have the longer versions in previous episodes and episodes to come, how I was tested, how I was tried, and how I never lost faith in God's ability to keep me, shield me, and ultimately just keep me in his good graces. And the only thing I can think about, why me versus some of the other people that I know that went through similar things and literally lost their minds, ended up homeless, sleeping out of their cars, is that childlike innocence of faith that was instilled in me as a baby. And I thank my mother to this day for doing that. My biological mom, Verlene Reddick, because she suffered from schizophrenia. And even during the worst of her episodes, the worst of her times, she made sure me and my sister got to church. Thank you, Ma. I love you. I appreciate you. And I wouldn't change you being my mother. I wouldn't change any of the things that I went through, because ultimately it brought me to where I'm at today. And I bring this to a close, that everybody wants something. Everybody's asking God to bless them with something. But if God looks at you and gives you the roadmap and says, these are all the things you're going to have to go through to get to where you want to be at, most people will say, no, I'm okay. I'll just stay here. You're going to have to grow through what you go through. For every new level that you reach, you're going to have to become a new version of yourself. You're going to have to be willing to give something up to go up. What am I saying? God blesses you with XYZ. You can't hold on to XYZ, right? And then expect to get ABC. You got to let that go, right? That's giving up something in order to receive something new. My name is Mr. T.I.M., a.k.a. Timothy Reddick. It's been my pleasure sharing with you guys today, and I hope this story helps somebody go through whatever I hope this story helps somebody grow through whatever they're going through. Appreciate you guys. Deuces.